can name this guy?
Oh, he's not too.
Not Richard, not my grandfather. No.
It's kind of like you. Edison?
No.
Do you like the bow tie?
Edison?
The Son of God.
How about this one?
John Lovitz.
I bet they're famous hackers.
This is Jesse James.
Oh, baby.
This is Al Capone. Yeah, I heard it.
Oh, wow.
Now, who can name this guy?
Oh, Grandpa! If you showed me a picture, maybe.
Conflict.
If we had a picture. How about Stuxnet? Okay, Conficker is the one that was a big deal that everybody was passing around on USB drives. You would stick it in and spread on the computer. It was a huge deal in lots of places. Tore Europe apart. Stuxnet is the one that people think may have actually been designed, they think it probably was designed to target computers in Iran's nuclear program. People pointing the finger at the US government or the Israeli government because they're the only entities we know of that have the capacity to do that. Outlaws have changed a little bit in the last few years. So, what do they want? Cybercriminals today are typically, I mean, they're really just after money for the most part. And there are two primary ways they get them. Surprisingly, for many of us, one of the principal ways they do is not really by stealing our credit card information. At least not by getting onto your computer and stealing your credit card information. Because they have to do all that work to get one credit card. Whereas if they break into some company's computer and steal all of the credit cards that they have stored there, now they're doing something. Which is why Amazon invests so much in computer security, and they do a great job of it. So the two things that cyber criminals typically are after, they do typically by the same means. They'll get a bot on your computer, like Conficker. A bot, and they make a bunch of computers that have some virus of some sort, some malware. They're called a botnet. And what they do is they'll respond to a computer called the command and control server. So it says go do something, and then they go do it. And bots are actually designed to be hidden. They're designed to not be visible. So they're not going to delete your files, and they're not going to chew up all your memory. They're not going to do all sorts of things because they don't want you to know they're there. Because the entire power of the botnet is having all these computers at their command. The two things they usually do are, one, spam people. So people might actually be using your computer to send spam. That might fill you with warm fuzzies. They do that a lot because you can make a little bit of money. I mean, it's some tiny fraction of a cent for every email sent, but since it costs them virtually nothing to send it, why not? They just send out millions of them and make money. The other thing they do is what's called a distributed denial of service attack. This sort of thing makes news a lot because there really isn't a way to counter it legitimately. I mean, we could just try to take every random grandma's computer that has a bot on it so that it can't be done. What a DDoS attack is they just send tons and tons and tons of traffic at a computer. Recently, there was a DDoS on Visa.com, another one on MasterCard. And that was a little bit different from usual, but tons of these things are happening. What will happen is, typically it's someone like in Eastern Europe or something, or at least that's who takes credit for it. So they get this botnet in all these computers, 100,000 computers in America, and then they point it all at some company's server. The server can't handle the load, can't service the normal requests. People are trying to load whatever web page, Visa.com for example. They tried it on Amazon, it didn't work. Go Amazon. But they'll send so much traffic at this server that it can't handle legitimate requests, and so people can't load the web page. Even Yahoo and Google have been taken down with this type of attack before. And then what they do is they send a little thing and say, oh, by the way, we took you down, and if you pay us so much money, we won't do it again. So it's the protection racket that goes back as far as Rome and the fire department. So we have to deal with bots and so on. One common way that they're sent is on USB drives. There are lots of other ways, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about lots of different things that you can do to protect yourselves. One interesting thing is Facebook. Facebook has introduced this whole new brand of security flaws. And it's not just Facebook, it's just that's the big one. But I'm not saying that Farmville is bad, I haven't looked at it. But there are so many applications on Facebook. And we go to these applications and we say, oh yeah, I accept, I'm fine with this thing. It's just a personality test. And so you click through and it tells you, oh, you're in Gryffindor, or you're like Batman, and you're like, cool. Well, you don't really know what it's doing, because by going to this app, you're actually giving the whatever program, you're giving it access to the information that you have on your Facebook. And so it's very possible that these applications are actually stealing your information and selling them to spammers. Possible, we don't know. I mean, I'm not going to be able to take a look at one program and tell you, because I don't have the source code and don't have the time to look at it anyway. But Facebook applications are this huge thing. So what do? Bad idea is just click. A good idea is to open it in another browser. So if you're in Internet Explorer, then open it in Firefox where you're not logged into Facebook. And at least it won't be able to spread to other people. That won't work for Facebook apps, but it will work for those links that go around and people click on. Hey, check it out. You can also pay attention to the wording. Lots of us here are Mormons, and there are lots of words that we usually don't use. So if your friend uses a word that you normally wouldn't use in this link that he put on your wall, maybe he didn't write it. But for example, the best idea really is just ask your friend, because typically these things, they post themselves because you clicked on it and it can do whatever it wants. So it will go and post it itself on all your friends' web pages, on their walls. So if you ask your friend, hey, did you actually put this up there? That's a pretty good way to make sure you're not clicking on anything malicious. It at least is a huge start. Another thing you can do is, this is new as of last week, Facebook supports a secure way of sending and receiving information. So, you go to your Facebook page, on your settings, right down here, you open up account security, check the box, and click save. Like, go home and do it. It's secure browsing. So what can happen? When you log on, you send your username and password, and it opens up a secure connection for you to send your password so that people can't listen in and steal it. But if you're logged in, you have this session ID. It's some special number. It says, I am Petey and I'm logged into Facebook. So every time I send a request to say, oh, I want to see Whitney's webpage, or I want to see Jason's wall, I send it with my session ID, so they say, oh, Petey's Jason's friend, so he has access to this information, and we'll send it back to him. There's nothing to stop somebody else from picking up that session number by listening on the network and getting onto my session. There's actually a Firefox extension called Firesheet that you can just click a button that says start capturing. It'll show all of the things, especially on an unsecured wireless network. Everyone who's logged into anything that uses an unsecured thing once you're logged in, and you can just double click on it and you've got their session. So you can see all sorts of stuff. Google, fortunately, has defaulted to HTTPS, so it'll do it automatically, but you have to tell Facebook that you want it. Anytime you're logging in, you want to make sure not only that it's secure when you log in, but the entire time that you're logged in, or someone could do this. Fortunately, banks are up on this, so you don't need to worry too much about that. We put things in these really secure mailboxes, and then we trust our mailman to be like Navy boy here, who's just delivering everything. But we just don't know what our mailman is like. What I mean by that is, once information's out on the internet, anyone can get to it. Email can be read. If you just send an email, it's like there's no envelope on it. And anybody who happens to have access to something that's along the path can read it. So we need to be careful. Bad idea, do nothing. Good idea-ish, be careful. Best idea is encrypt. You can use, on Linux there's a program called GPG. There's a Mac port for it if you're on a Mac. So just search for GPG, which I'll tell you about it later if you want. And there's also a Windows version called WinGPG. It is a pain to set up. But once you get it set up, it's really easy to use. So that's something you can talk with me about afterwards, or just look it up online, read up on it. There's a lot that you would need to know to kind of get the theory behind how it works. But again, once you get it set up, it's really easy to use. And as far as we know, no one in the world, including the NSA, knows how to break it.